The topic that I chose this week is repetition and intentional repetition, not the kind of repetition that you're trying to edit out. And so I have a little share that I want to do here, repetition as a literary device, because obviously there's repetition that is like you're being repetitive and that's not what we're talking about. This is when you're intentionally using repetition to, as this says here, emphasize a feeling, create rhythm, or develop a sense of urgency. So I want to encourage the trying this on if this is not something that you've tried to do. And this obviously could be something that comes later, could be something that you instead try and revision. But it's something that when I see repetition in literature, I always love it. And I am going to read a little bit from Heavy today, because Kiese Laymon is the king of masterful repetition. And I also have an example from someone who's in our group who agreed to let me share. And I just want to show how easy it is. She's, before this little section, she's talking about having an imaginary conversation with a police officer because she parks in a red zone, basically. And so in her mind, she's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, as she goes to pick up her friend who is in his 80s. And so that sort of sets the context for here, where it says, that Freddie is the old man. In the crook of Freddie's right arm, he holds a bouquet of flowers. His hair is held back with a headband. He's wearing jeans. I'm just going to kind of go through this more quickly. At his age, he begrudgingly chooses comfort over fashion because of neuropathy. He does not complain. He hands me the roses. These are for you. And then here is the part where it says, the imaginary anger from my imaginary confrontation with the imaginary policeman disappears like a wisp of smoke. Freddie has that effect on me. So I just like this a lot. I mean, I said to her, I liked it and asked for permission to share it because the context here was this, fantasy that was set up. And then she kind of says, okay, look, all of this, from the anger to the confrontation to the police, all of it was imaginary. And so it's driving that point home. And I think you could say there's a rhythm here. There's also a little bit of urgency because it sets up this idea that it deflates whatever was in her consciousness before this point, because this elderly man has a calming effect on her. So that's as easy as it is. It doesn't have to be more than that. Before I move to close here, I am just going to share, like I said, from Heavy. That's this book, Heavy by Kiese Laymon, which I've read from before. Kiese does repetition all over the place. You want to read this book to get a sense of how to do repetition in literature. I mean, I underlined multiple passages, and it is because he has such a strong sense of lyricism. And so there is this, it's poetic, right? I mean, that would be another reason to do repetition. If you think about repetition in songs, if you think about repetition in stanzas, so there is all of this poeticism that surfaces when you read repetition done well. And so, I mean, this is just a simple example from page 134. And he's spending time, with a friend. He says, an hour later, I walked back down to the kitchen, dug 6 of the 8 slices out of the garbage. He's talking about pizza, ran warm water on them, picked off the pepperoni, and warmed up my second dinner. I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel white. I felt so free. I felt so fantastic. It's like, it's so small. It doesn't have to be a lot. I'm going to read a little bit of a longer passage because this one shows how you might use repetition a bit more. This is when Kiese is leaving for college and he promises his mother that he will be back. She says, come back soon. He says, I will not be back soon, even though he's just promised her that he will. He says to the reader, I will not be back soon. I will attend Oberlin College. I will get caught stealing a frame for your birthday from the college bookstore. I will learn under Calvin Hurton how to be the Black Southern writer Margaret Walker wanted me to be. I will read the cancer journals. I will learn to get good at the things I didn't want to get good at. I will listen to Christopher Wallace and Tupac Shakur die. I will see creases, hear whiffs, and feel futurist pitches in the work of Octavia Butler and Outcast. I will practice. I will write about the holes in the ground in the woods across the street from Grandmama's house. I will not be back soon. I will feel like a good dude for not technically having sex with anyone but my girlfriend. I will feel like a good dude. I will call myself a feminist. I will fall in love with friends who will fall in love with me. I will listen to friends talk about their experiences with sex and violence and confusion. I will gently ask questions. I will not tell those friends what my body remembered in our bedroom and the bedrooms of Beulah Buford's house in Mississippi. I will not be back soon. And this continues. I mean, this is a beautiful passage. It's like you can see, it's almost like poetic prose. It's like a long poem. And that's on Heavy, page 161, for those of you who want to look at it. But he goes on for 2 more pages, some prose, and then reiterating, I will not be back soon. And it's declarative, by the time you're done, it has this really profound effect on you, because here his mom is saying, please come back soon. He says, I will, mama. And then he says, I will not, I will not, I will not. And we really are on that march with him, kind of understanding he wants to get the hell out of there. He needs to, he's a young man who needs to get out of Dodge and have his own experiences. So again, repetition can be beautiful. It can be a literary device, like I said, and it also can just hold a lot of power. And when you think about people who speak, politicians, poets, other people, and why do they use repetition? Why do we want to drive points home in the way that we do? And so you would find certain places in your memoir, it's not something I'm recommending doing all over the place, but maybe, once or twice to find an opportunity to have a passage like that could really bring some depth and profundity to your prose.